The following program is sponsored by PokerStars.net. Last time on the big game, it was a night of tough showdowns. High-stakes regular Bob Bulgaris went up against billionaire Guy Laliberte.
16. What can you do with 16,000? I can maybe like change the oil in the Bugatti.
Barely. Barely.
All right, here's the oil change for you, Guy.
10.
I can beat that hand.
Poker pro Jason Mercier put 2010 main event champion Jonathan Duhamel to the test for over 18 grand.
Wow.
I hate you.
An amateur loose cannon, Carrie Burchell, also played a big pot with Mercier.
You said call?
Yes, sir.
And lost almost all of her profit. With a fearless loose cannon and a table full of veterans, will the fireworks continue? Find out tonight on The Big Game.
Yep. Welcome to my world.
This is the PokerStars.net Big Game.
Welcome to The Big Game from Las Vegas, Nevada. Alongside Joe Stapleton, I'm Scott Huff, and tonight there's over $1.1 million in cash on the table as some of the toughest players in the world have come to battle here in our state-of-the-art poker room.
Half this table is Canadian, but only one has the main event bracelet, and only one is stuck 80 dimes, and it's the same guy, Jonathan Duhamel.
24-year-old Jason Mercier hails from South Florida, party in the city where the heater is on. He's up almost 38K.
Guy Laliberte is the billionaire creator of Cirque du Soleil. He's down 40 grand, but I bet he'd bend over backwards to book a win.
Bob Bulgaris is a high-stakes cash game player, and he's been crushing the game so far. He's up 122 grand.
Eugene Kachalov can't catch a break, but the cat's caught his tongue. He's quietly bled out for over 51K so far.
Our remaining player is loose cannon Carrie Burchell. The college admissions officer at one point was up 44 grand in profit. She's now up only 10K, and right now she's standing by with Amanda Leatherman.
Carrie, you had a rough night last night. Are you still confident?
I'm still confident. It was just a slight misstep there, so.
You want to tell me what the slight misstep was?
Well, I've been betting a lot and running into hands with Jason, and he's been letting them go. And when I was thinking about whether or not to call or fold, I was trying to decide whether or not I put him on a hand or whether or not it was just his time to stand his ground. And I put him on standing his ground, and I was a little wrong.
Are you going to change your strategy at all for these last two shows?
No,
Same thing.
same thing.
All right, good luck.
Thank you.
Here's another look at the loose cannon rules. Each cannon is staked $100,000 to play. They keep all winnings above the initial $100,000, and the loose cannon, who's won the most money at season's end, earns a North American Poker Tour passport worth $50,000.
Right now, the leading loose cannon to beat is Massimiliano Martinez, and he set the bar high at over 163K. Carrie says she won't change her strategy at all. Her strategy, by the way, if I had to sum it up in one word, would be baller.
The action will start here on a baller in his own right, worth a couple $1 billion. Guy Laliberte of Cirque du Soleil. Pocket ducks.
I'm sure some Cirque du Soleil show somewhere has ducks in it. Oh yeah, I remember now. The ducks float around in the tears of a unicorn and then do a 7-minute handstand.
Guy raises to 1,400. King 9 of clubs for Bob. Folds. Kachalov can speak. 10-6. Lays it down. Carrie Burchell with Queen 9.
Baller on the button.
Calls. Duhamel out. Jason Mercier. Ace 8. He can make something out of that. He calls.
Jason's defending out of the big blind, and unfortunately for Guy, it's a statistical guarantee that at least one overcard will hit.
10-8 tray rainbow. Mercier hits middle pair and checks it. Guy bets 3,100.
Billionaire's not afraid of 3 overcards. Carrie's got a gut shot to the nuts, and in case you haven't been watching, Carrie's not really big on folding. Whatever she does, she's still got Mercier to act behind, and he's got a decent piece of this flop.
Not big on folding, Joe, but she's been pretty big on raising. There's another one to 9,300.
Very aggressive. Mercier's got middle pair, best kicker.
Gives it up. Just one player left to get through.
Guess you have a bigger pair than mine.
Yeah, she sure does. They're a bigger pair of balls.
That might have been her bluff.
Gee folds.
She's got heart.
There's no bluffing in poker. Sometimes I have to tell you guys that.
There's a very good chance I had the best hand.
100% chance.
Well, Jason had the best hand, but Carrie's the one stacking chips as we go over the rules of the big game. Each table lasts exactly 150 hands. The action pre-flop is pot limit and becomes no limit after the flop. Blinds are 2 and 400 with a $100 ante, all of which is paid by the player on the button. And every player begins with at least 100,000 but can rebuy for up to 500K.
The big rule change this season is that our loose cannon cannot come back after she's played this week's 150 hands. No, they won't make an exception for Carrie. I've asked.
Cards are in the air. Action's going to start on Bob Vulgaris.
Geez, easy on the cards, buddy. He's bending them like one of Guy's performers.
King 5 lays it down. Kachalov out. 7-4 for the cannon.
Not a typical raising hand, but technically could still be called a suited connector.
Nothing typical about this cannon. Raises to 1,800.
These two have tangled more often than a pair of iPod headphones.
Okay.
Duhamel in, Mercier out, and it's on Laliberte. Calls.
Carrie is dominated.
One of my two favorite tango partners.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
As long as you're tangoing on ice skates.
Flopped 9, Jack 5, couple of diamonds. Duhamel with top pair.
Guy's flopped a gut shot draw.
And checks it.
Carrie whiffed.
And checks.
Duhamel again, top pair.
Bets 3,600. 0.0003% of Guy's net worth.
I think you're a couple dozen zeros off.
And he folds. Burchell's out. And the champ will take down the pot.
Duhamel, the Canadian, takes that one down just like he tore down that 41-year-long WSOP icy glass ceiling to become the first Canadian to ever win the main event. He won $8.9 million that day, but he claims to still play in his home game where the blinds are 25 cent, 50 cent. Oh, that's really good news, actually, because I have an entire sack full of Canadian quarters I just can't get rid of.
Don't try to use them in the meters. Action on Duhamel. 8-9 offsuit.
Under the gun, raise.
Do they call this stuck and steaming, Joe? He raises to 1,400. Mercier out.
Maybe trying to string together a little winning streak. 3 in a row's a hat trick.
Laliberte calls 1,400. 5-4 of hearts.
Suited connectors on the button, pretty juicy.
Calls.
You guys are like students of the game. You think about like Eugene's like thinking about something the entire time, right? He's like thinking about ranges and this the right way to play this hand, the right way that one. I'm thinking about like
Butterflies.
yeah, exactly butterflies and like kittens and ice cream and
Huff, what are you thinking about?
Pad tie. 6, ace, 8.
Paintings and dogs and
exactly.
The dogs told Bob to check.
Checked around. We'll see a turn. 8 of hearts trips for Duhamel.
Bob's also picked up a flush draw and a gut shot draw. The flop checked around, so the betting leads up for grabs.
Duhamel fires 2,700. Laliberte folds.
Think with a flush and a gut shot draw, Bob may have too much equity to fold.
Not folding. Raises to 8,300.
This is some bad timing for a raise. I assume the butterflies told him to do it. Duhamel definitely needs to consider that Bob may have a bigger 8 or a full house. 3 betting in this spot would be pretty reasonable since Bob's probably got either a big hand or a draw. We know he's got a draw, and a 3 bet could very well get called.
We also know it's highly unlikely that Duhamel's folding in this spot.
Highly.
Duhamel makes the call.
Decides to play it cautiously, and who can blame him with how tight Bob's been playing all week. Bob's going to need some help on the river. I don't think a bluff's going to do it.
River, 10 of spades. No help to Bob.
Duhamel's now chopping with any 8 worse than his.
And he checks it.
Bob missed, but he still might think he can win this hand with a bluff.
But he checks it down.
Such an embarrassing hand to show after checking.
Good, eh?
I had 5 high. You got it.
No wonder Bob lost. He can't read the board. He actually had a pair of 8s with an ace 10-6 kicker.
I think you're picking up a Canadian accent. Bored. That was weird.
Sorry.
Duhamel wins a pot worth 22K.
Nice hand, young man. Taught that chaser a lesson.
He did, didn't he? He slammed the brakes on me right there.
The first red light for Bob all week. See if he gets back in the fast lane as the big game shifts into top gear. when we get back. Welcome back to Las Vegas and the big game where loose cannon Carrie Burchell has been staked $100,000 to play here this week. But what would the pros do if they got the chance to sit in seat 1?
If I was a loose cannon, if I would be the loose cannon, I think I would crush. You know, my strategy would be that I would be playing kind of loose and playing a lot of suited cards and trying to, just smash.
I would probably start off seeing who's doing what, who's playing like aggressively, and just kind of play tight. And then the second part of the show, I would just basically try to play big pots with marginal hands and try to gamble. Because that's the whole point.
I would gamble a lot, that's for sure. Because the thing is, the loose cannon has to win, so definitely it's a good dynamic at the table, and it's gonna give a lot of action, so it should be fun.
I've learned a lot as far as watching the professionals try to push the loose cannons around. I'll let them try to push me around for just a little bit, but when I'm ready to make a move, I need to make a solid move because I know everyone's gunning for the loose cannon.
What a liar. Carrie said she was going to let the pros push her around a little bit. That hasn't happened. Epic fail there.
And right now, Carrie is up $14,000, almost 2/3 of the way through the 150-hand session. Guy Laliberte, 7-6. Apparently he's going to try to twist this one into a hand. Raises to 1,400.
I see what you did there.
Vulgaris folds. Kachalov, 10-8 of diamonds. My favorite hand. Calls 1,400.
I don't remember asking.
King, queen of spades for Burchell.
It's king, queen, and it's back in spades. This is an easy call, but if she's thinking, she might be thinking about re-raising. Now you can 3-bet king, queen suited on the button, but the problem is that you open yourself up to a 4-bet, and if that happens, you could be ultra dominated.
Well, she's open to a 4-bet now. She's raised to 5,600. Duhamel with queen jack. Folds. Mercier out. Guy's done with it. Last man standing, Eugene Kachalov. Folds, and Carrie will take down the pot.
Look at that satisfied little smile, like she just got away with something. I mean, I'd be smirking too. These guys are laying down to her like there's a carbon monoxide leak in the room.
Somebody open a window. So the 3-bet from our loose cannon, Carrie Burchell, gets respect there. She takes that one down uncontested.
As we take a look at the stats, she's opting for that move, the 3-bet 4.2% of the time, a little below the table average. The two players who are tied at the top of the list are Duhamel and Mercier. They're each 3-betting 6.5% of the time. For the 23-year-old Canadian world champion Jonathan Duhamel, 3-betting has helped lead him to a deficit of over $63,000 and at least one reload. Meanwhile, for 24-year-old Jason Mercier, it's been a part of his winning strategy. He's up over $35K. The moral of the story, if you're Jason Mercier, 3-bet. If you're Jonathan Duhamel, don't.
Bob folds. Kachalov with the queen 9 raises to 1,200. Pocket 5s for the cannon.
Yet another playable hand for the cannon.
And she will call. Ace-10 suited for Duhamel.
Duhamel with a big suited ace in position.
Calls on the button. Mercier makes the call. And Guy's in.
Guy getting okay immediate odds, but his hand is pants. Kachalov's dominated by Jason, who's dominated by Duhamel.
I'm going to call the flop. You make a flow chart. Flop 9-10 queen.
Mercier flops top 2. Eugene flops top and bottom. Duhamel with a piece as well. I'm going to start looking for some cover.
Mercier's checked.
Guy's actually got a gut shot, but it's the dodo end.
Checks it.
Eugene's got 2 pair on a susceptible board and was the pre-flop aggressor.
Fires 4,000.
Yeah, no shot at a check there.
Burchell out.
Duhamel's in 3rd place. He's only got middle pair and some backdoor draws.
But he's going for chips. He raises to 12,600 with just middle pair.
This bluff is ill-timed at best. Even though Jason has the best hand, he has to be a little wary of a bet and a raise in front of him on this board. He's got a strong hand, but it's not necessarily a spot you want to get all the money in, especially with Eugene still to act behind.
And Mercier will call. Guy's out. Back on Kachalov.
Who's making the appropriate face, and even though he has to hate the action that just went on, this board is so wet that it's hard to automatically give your opponents credit for having you beat.
Kachalov calls as well.
We've got ourselves a pretty big pot brewing here.
As we head to the turn 3 ways. Jack of spades.
What an action killer. Both Jason and Eugene's hands have just been all but counterfeited.
Checks back to Duhamel on the button.
Jonathan's in an interesting spot. Since he was the only one who was bluffing, his was the only hand that wasn't ruined by that card. Looks like Duhamel's thinking checks are for the hockey rink.
Bets out 26,500.
And Duhamel just made a huge bluff with a huge pair. If you catch my drift. This card was just so bad for Jason and Eugene both. And both of them called Duhamel's raise on the last street, so him betting again will likely look ridiculously strong. Looks like he already knows this will be a bad laydown.
He folds. Eugene pitches it in as well, and the big bluff works for the champ.
Gets two guys to fold better hands.
I'm going to show like a 3 of clubs.
Duhamel drags a pot worth over 70,000.
Something's not sitting well with Jason. Either that fold or the catered meal.
Why don't I just fold?
Would have made it easier for me.
You got to be lucky to beat a world champ, but it doesn't hurt to be good.
So you had like ace-jack or something?
2 pair. You had 2 pair?
So as Kachalov and Mercier console each other, Duhamel stacks their chips with the third best hand. And we've got lots more action when the big game continues right after this. Welcome back to Las Vegas and the big game, where there's over $1.1 million up for grabs on that table. Action will start on the 2010 main event champion and a big bluffer from just before the break, Jonathan Duhamel. Ace-7. Folds.
Easy fold under the gun.
Mercier with an ace and a king. Big slick.
See, you could easily be dominated.
Raises to 1,200. Action on Guy with 9-7 suited. Calls. Bob with the queen-jack.
Bob, seriously, take it easy on the cards. We're on a budget.
And Bob will call. Kachalov out.
Wait, imagine that.
Cannon calls.
Little loosey-goosey. Of these 4 players, only one of them makes a living playing poker.
To the flop, 10-6 queen, couple of spades.
Bob's flop top pair.
Rochelle checks her gut shot.
Bob's got one of her outs, and if she hits it, Jason makes Broadway. And Jason was the pre-flop aggressor. Plus, he's the one professional poker player in the hand.
Jason c-bets 2,700.
Guy's got a gut shot, but it's not a very good one.
Folds.
Bob's got the best hand with top pair.
Makes the call.
Kerry has almost no shot at winning this pot. I mean, Jason and Bob could accidentally muck, I guess. Oh, no.
But she calls.
I know Kerry Hayes folding, but Kerry, you can't win every hand.
To the turn. Another queen trips for Bob. He's running good on the big game.
He's now got everyone drawing dead.
Check.
Rochelle checks.
Put a jack out now and things get really interesting. Jason and Kerry both make straights. Bob boats up.
Mercier will pass.
Jason's given up the lead. Maybe the NBA handicapper actually knows how to turn it on before the 4th quarter.
Won't wait for a buzzer beater. Makes it 8,000.
Maybe those spades and the paired board will alert Kerry to the fact that she doesn't have a single clean out.
Wisely lets it go. And Mercier folds. Bob will take it down and add to his profit.
I wonder if Bob would do me a favor and give me a line in the Globetrotters Generals game coming up. I think the Generals are due. Bob takes down another pot, and so far his rocky, some might say nitty approach has been working for him. He's last in VPIP, least likely to 3-bet, and after the flop, he's also the most passive player with the lowest aggression factor. But he's also #1 in profit, currently up 125 grand. They say you have to give action to get it. Not true in this case.
Well, speaking of action, there's a straddle on. It looks like Guy is going to double straddle. In my home game, we call that the psycho straddle. Action on Bob. 8 tray of hearts. Folds. Kachalov out. King-jack for the cannon.
This is a double straddled pot, so making a correct raise is going to take a lot more than usual. At this point, I'm pretty sure Kerry, who is a baller, won't play this timidly.
Pumps it up to 4,400. Action on Duhamel, Jack 9 of spades.
Duhamel's out of position, and he's dominated, though he is suited.
And makes the call. Mercier. Ooh, the ace is fake out. Folds.
Here we go.
Guy with ace 5. Already with 1,600 in this pot because he double straddled.
Okay.
Makes the call.
Guy's a billionaire. He's in. And he's the slight favorite, and as you can see, it's not by much. I'd say even less so with Carey in position.
Flop queen 10-10, couple of diamonds. Rochelle and Duhamel both up and down.
Again, this pot is bloated from the double straddle. If Carey continues, it's going to have to be for a much bigger amount than usual.
Fires.
I create a monster.
12,500.
Is he talking about Carey or the gymnast dance monster from Ka?
There we go.
Duhamel calls.
As expected, Jonathan can't get away from his open-ender just yet.
I know. And that's why they call it the big game.
What's why? I don't get it.
Guy folded. We'll go heads up to the turn.
Carey and Jonathan once again left alone to tango.
Turn 7 of clubs.
That 7 really doesn't do much. It improves no one's hand, and no one picks up any more outs. It looks like Carey's loading up for another semi-bluff. She is bluffing with the best hand, but it's going to take a pretty big bet to get Duhamel to fold his open-ender.
Fires 27,600.
Scott, what's the name of that thing you use to scoop melon? Only leave off the word melon because that's what Carey is.
Baller.
That's right, Scott. She's a baller. She's given Jonathan the wrong price, especially since he could already be drawing dead. In poker, you're supposed to beat up the player to your right, and this has pretty much been the opposite in the case of Carey and Jonathan.
That is pretty good bet.
Duhamel folds. And Carey's going to take down a pot worth over 67,000.
Go bluff one time.
Next time.
All business. All business.
Thank you.
Carey's holding her own. She can play.
A compliment from Bob. He could barely get it out of his mouth.
With or without cards, Carey has been firing all week. She now has a profit of 34K. See if she can keep the pros on their heels and keep scooping up pots and compliments when the big game returns. Welcome back to Las Vegas and the big game. Let's take a quick moment and take a look at where everyone's at.
Bob's still crushing. He's up 125 large. The Cannon's up 34 grand. Mercier's up 20.
The other 3 players are stuck. Duhamel for over 50K, La Liberte for over 59 grand, and Kachalov can't seem to connect. He's down 69,000.
But now it's getting fun because Carey is just one double up away from taking the lead in the race for that NAPT passport.
She may get a chance to play a big pot here. Vulgaris is straddled for 800. Action will start on Kachalov. Ace-10 suited.
Big suited ace. Maybe this will turn his night around.
Raises it up to 2,500. Action on the Cannon. Jack-10 offsuit.
Totally fine to make a call with, even though we know she's dominated.
Makes the call. Duhamel out. Jason Mercier, King-Queen.
Sometimes a spot for a re-raise in the small blind.
He does. Bumps it to 9,100. Pocket queens for Guy.
And this is sometimes a spot for a re-raise. Especially when the re-raise came out of the small blind.
And this pot already bloated because of the straddle.
20,000.
He re-raises to 20K.
Chump change for the billionaire. 20K wouldn't even cover his insurance on his trip to outer space.
Action folds all the way back around to Mercier.
King-Queen is usually not in very good shape in a 4-bet pot, and it's not even suited. Jason's probably not too happy about burning 9K, but Guy's a Guy who we haven't seen mess around pre-flop too often. Nope, no magical transformation. Jason spent more time in the tank this week than Shamu.
Lets it go.
I tell you what, if you can show me one card higher than a queen, I'll give you $100.
The guy's a billionaire.
Free money. You can put it right in the one drop. Has to have you higher than a queen, though.
Ah, it's for charity. Guy declines the show.
$100? I won't show you a card for 100.
You couldn't. You had to think about it first.
Huh?
What do you have, like 9, 10 there?
Look on TV.
I will look on TV.
And keep giving your $100 to one drop.
I'll do it anyways.
Exactly. So that's why I didn't show you the cards. I knew you would be doing it anyway.
I knew you had nothing there, by the way.
The One Drop Foundation is a charity founded by Guy, dedicated to developing clean water sources around the world.
I was just taking advantage of my position.
I wouldn't think you had anything there. Like zero. Like nothing. Like that's what I really felt like. I could be wrong. I've been wrong a lot. More than I'm right, probably, but.
Well, Bob's only wrong if you count 2 queens as something.
The straddle is on, and it's from our cannon, so the action will start on Duhamel.
The cannon is straddling, Scott, because she is a...
baller.
No, she's just a good, aggressive player.
Well, thanks, partner. Duhamel raises to 2,500. Jack 7 for Guy. Calls 2,500.
It's like the standard straddle raise right there. It's like straddle 2,500.
Shh, don't let him know you're paying attention.
Bob folds, Kachalov out. Cannon, ace queen.
Kerri could most certainly 3-bet this if she likes, especially since she's out of position to both Jonathan and Guy.
She seems to do almost everything you say. Bumps it to 11,200.
Because she's baller. Jonathan's got to be getting really sick of Kerri at this point. He's not likely to fold, but I'm sure he'd rather have seen this flop for 2,500 instead of 11,000. Jason, can you see if they have any diet soda back there? I'm trying to watch the carbs. This is taking a while. Maybe he's considering 4-betting or folding as well.
How about calling?
That's certainly one way to play it.
Back on Guy.
This should be a pretty easy decision for Guy, one way or another. It's not like it's hard to tell if Jack 7 is ahead or behind. And it's not like he's got to sweat the money at all.
Okay, let's do it.
I want to be a billionaire. So freaking bad. Guy calls.
No pressure.
Interesting. Now we have a pot.
We sure do. Loose call doesn't even begin to describe it.
To the flop. King 4-4, a couple of clubs.
Everyone missed, but Kerri can maybe win this if she keeps up the aggression.
Jonathan 7, still good.
And this is a huge pot already, and it's going to take a hefty figure for this bet to not look like a weak lead.
She's loading up.
Here comes the baller bet.
Loading up the 5K chips. Leads out for 26,700. Is that enough, Joe?
Not sure if it's enough, but Duhamel looks like he knows he's been had.
But can't call. Folds.
Good job.
Oh, man. I thought you were going to do something in this hand.
He's out.
Guess it was enough.
Rochelle will drag a pot worth 61.5.
Another very nice hand from the cannon. She has not taken her foot off the gas one time this whole week. The C-bet there gets her opponents to fold. And when we look at the stats, we can see that billionaire Guy Laliberte is folding the C-bet 73% of the time, while on the lower end of the scale, Jonathan Duhamel is folding to C-bets less than half the time at only 43%. You can't really blame him for folding on that last hand, however. The pot was bloated from a straddle. Kerri gets more credit because she's an amateur, and he still had Guy to act behind him.
Jason Mercier is going to straddle, so the action will start on Guy in this hand. Looks down at 9 deuce of clubs.
Pretty easy fold under the gun.
Pot.
Or not.
Joey's a billionaire. What's the difference? Raises to 3,600. Bob quickly out.
He made a really loose call with 9 deuce earlier in the session. He must like that hand.
Ace tray of diamonds for Eugene, and he'll call. Rochelle out. Ace queen for Duhamel.
This can sometimes be a 3-bet from the big blind.
Calls. Mercier with 6 tray of spades.
Jason's hand isn't great, but he's already got money in there, and he's getting almost 5-1.
Makes the call.
Duhamel maybe didn't 3-bet since Guy raised under the gun, or maybe because he's stuck in a little snake bit.
King 7-6 on the flop. 2 diamonds. Flush draw for Eugene. A pair for Mercier.
Mercier's got bottom pair, and it's somehow the best hand.
Duhamel checks and Mercier checks.
Guy with nothing, but it looks like he's going to continue his ruse.
Is ruse a French word?
Je ne sais pas.
Laliberte bets 10,600.
Eugene's got the nut flush draw and is about as likely to fold as he is to start singing show tunes. He's also got Duhamel and Mercier behind to contend with.
And he makes the call. Back on the champ. Lays it down.
Put in 1,000 too much.
What to do with bottom pair?
Kicks it in.
And just like that, Eugene's got the best hand.
Heads up action to the turn. 5 of clubs.
Guy actually picks up some outs to a gut shot with his 9 high. Eugene's also picked up a dummy gutter draw. I can only assume Guy was prepared to keep firing with this hand, however.
Another shell, 26,600 from Guy.
Eugene's got the best hand, and he's drawing to the nuts. He's getting 2.5 to 1, which isn't quite the right price, but I don't know a lot of players who fold this many outs to Guy.
You don't know Eugene?
Ooh, this was one of my friends from Montreal.
Well, I hope they get it.
He shows.
My 9 deuces is the things we have in our game in Montreal.
Eugene's got a pretty good sense of humor. Wonder why he's not laughing.
Well done. You didn't stop putting the pressure on. That was the key to that hand. You didn't give up.
Can't give up. But under the hit, you can't give up. At a king? Oh, okay. A draw? Like me. The 8 comes, I made a streak.
Well, that's one way to send a shout out to your home game. Will the tightrope act continue for the Cirque du Soleil creator? Find out when we return on The Big Game. Welcome back to The Big Game alongside Joe Stapleton. I'm Scott Huff. There's over $1.1 million up for grabs on that table as hand 111 of our 150 hand session begins. The straddle is on and the action starts on Can't Catch a Break, Catch-a-Love.
Adding insult to injury right before the break, Eugene got bluffed by Guy, who had 9 deuce suited and then showed it.
Action folds around to Jonathan Duhamel with King 10 of diamonds, raises to 2,100. Jason Mercier, Ace Queen of spades.
I smell a 3-bet.
And you get it, raises to 6,200. Guy, 9 deuce again.
Yeah, let's see it pull that 9 deuce bluff again in a 3-bet pot against Jason Mercier. That's what I thought.
Home game's not gonna like that. Bob Vulgaris with King Jack suited.
Ooh, can't blame Bob for wanting to see a flop with this hand.
But he folds.
Wow, tight is right. Still though, what a nit.
Duhamel calls.
Duhamel's in position with suited Broadway. Pretty tough to lay that down to a 3-bet from a guy like Jason.
So the 2 young tourney crushers will go heads up to the flop. 8, 10, 4.
Duhamel flops top pair. Going to be tough to get him off this one. Jason's got almost no choice but to continue.
Loading up. And Jason fires 5,800.
I assume Jonathan will want to take one off with top pair. After all, it is the best hand.
Duhamel makes the call.
It's pronounced Mercier, you punk.
To the turn, 4 of hearts pairs the board.
Let's see if Jason wants to continue continuing.
Doesn't, he checks.
Jason's given up the lead. Jonathan is probably okay with that second 4 hitting, as Jason's not likely to be holding one. And with Jason checking, it seems like he could start betting for value now if he wanted to.
He does, bets 5,500.
Jonathan's just made a super weak lead at this pot. Either trying to induce a raise or maybe just trying to make sure he gets called by ace high.
Looks like he's going to get at least called, and he does.
After betting so little, Jonathan has to be happy with that call.
To the river, 5 of clubs. Mercier checks.
Seems like a pretty safe spot for a value bet, though I'm not sure he'd get action from many worse hands, including the one Jason's got. A small bet might get paid off by ace high, but would also be more susceptible to getting raised. Then again, checking behind is the only way to guarantee you won't get raised.
Duhamel reaching for chips.
He shall not check behind.
There's an orange one in there, and he lays down the Duhammer. Bets 26,200.
Duhamel's gone the big bet route instead. He made a small bet on the turn, and now he's made a biggish one here on the river. I think he's trying to level Jason into making a hero call. He knows Jason's capable. He's dangling the cape and the tights right in front of him. Come on, Jason. This city needs you. You have to rescue Lois Lane from the evil Bluffster.
7. Got there.
At this point, though, there aren't a lot of missed draws Jason can put Jonathan on, so he might not be able to make this call. This would have to be just about a total bluff from Jump Street, maybe Jack 9. I'm pretty sure Jason's superhero power would be that he could hold his breath forever because this kid practically lives in the tank.
Sorry, give me 1 second.
Take your time.
When Jason thinks this long, maybe Duhamel decides he doesn't want to call. Jason taking his time making this decision. After all, it is for the price of Huff's car.
And Jason calls with ace high. And Duhamel's top pair is good. He'll win a pot worth almost 90,000.
Well, Jason, in the words of Tina Turner, we don't need another hero. Got to give Duhamel a lot of credit there. Made the perfect size bet and accurately put Jason on a hand knowing that his pair of 10s were good.
The champ is here.
And possibly on the comeback trail.
You're the best.
And that's the downside to making the hero call, but there's still more heroics ahead when we continue here on the big game. Welcome back to the big game, where earlier tonight we saw 2010 main event champ Jonathan Duhamel take down a really tough three-way pot. What was he thinking? We find out now as we go behind the poker face.
Okay, so now we're about 2/3 in the session. I was down a lot at that point, but I was just starting to get all of my money back. So I was starting to get some of the momentum back. And Eugene raised from under the gun +1 to 1,200. The loose cannon called, and I'm on the button with ace-10 suited. So I thought about raising, but I think just playing in position there is fine. So I just called there. Jason called from the small blind, and Guy called from the big blind. So we're 5 to see a flop. Flop come queen 10-9 with 2 clubs. I got second pair, backdoor flush draw. So, you know, kind of good hand, but the 5-way, you know, probably not the best hand at the point. Went check from the blind, and Eugene bet 4,000. The loose cannon fold. I kind of feel like my hand's not good at that point, but if Eugene has some kind of, let's say, overpair or ace-queen or those kind of hand, I can get him off of his end. So that's why I decided to raise at that point. So I raised to 12.6, you know, just hoping he's going to fold there. Something I didn't expect it, though, Jason called from the small blind. At that point, that just freezes me up. He kind of has probably a big draw. He folded in the big blind, and Eugene hesitated for a while and finally called. So for me, it's like, okay, the hand's over now. You know, there's like no way I'm gonna win it. Like I'm just hoping to hit the flush draw on the turn and get a free card to hit my flush on the river, basically. But an interesting jack come on the turn, and that changed almost everything. Now Jason check and Eugene check as well. So at that point, I figured there's like no way those two guys can have a king in their hand. And for me, like, it's kind of easy to have a king in my range. If I want to make a bluff there, I gotta bet, you know, not that big. I gotta bet like, let's say half the pot, maybe like 60% of the pot. So I decided to bet 26.5 there, just hoping they're both gonna fold. Jason folded, which is good. And Eugene thinks for like, you know, a couple of seconds, and they folded. It was a weird hand, I gotta say. But at the end, just it was a good card on the turn to, you know, just continue my bluff. So I'm quite happy about the way I played.
Duhamel won with the worst hand and got both Mercier and Kachelov to fold 2 pair. Not bad for a guy whose name starts with a duh.
And he's mounting a comeback. At one point, he was stuck over 80 grand. Now down just 21,600 bucks. He's got a pair of 7s.
More hockey sticks for the Canadian.
Pumps it up to 1,400. Mercier out. Guy out.
The comeback continues.
Action on Bob. 8-5.
Bob's been pretty nitty. This would be a weird call, even on the button.
That doesn't look like a call. Re-raises to 4,300. Eugene out. Burchell folds. Back on Duhamel.
Duhamel's out of position, so while I don't think he'll fold a pair, I'm sure he's not loving this spot. He's got to be aware of how tight Bob's playing, so I don't think we'll see a 4-bet.
And Jonathan makes the call.
As I mentioned, Bob hasn't been messing around much, so I assume he's got some kind of plan for this hand.
Heads up to the flop. Jack, trade, Jack, 2 hearts.
Duhamel still with the best hand, and honestly not too scary of a board for 2 sevens.
But he checks it.
Checks to the razor nonetheless.
And it looks like Bob may have another bet in him. C-bet it is to 5,700.
I'm not sure one bullet from Bob will be enough to get Duhamel to fold 2 sevens. For Jonathan, I don't think this is really a spot for a raise either. Most players would just call in this spot and see what develops on the turn.
And Duhamel makes the call.
Yum.
To the turn. 3 of clubs. The board's now paired twice. Duhamel checks.
Bob's gotten no help from the board to make things look any worse for 2 sevens. Hey, Niagara Falls, that's Canadian, and it looks like Bob's about to keep barreling.
Maybe over the edge. Has a lot of chips in his hand. Bet 17,700.
Nothing really changed about this board on the turn, but the pot's bigger, so Bob's able to put more pressure on the world champ. Even if Jonathan's ahead, he's got to fade the river as well as what's likely to be close to a 50K bet.
Folds.
I had it.
You had it?
I had it big time.
Really?
Show it.
Oh, Bob shows him the bluff and revels in it.
Beats ace high, right?
Yeah, beats ace high.
2 9s, 2 7s.
He had deuces, you dummy.
Did you get counterfeited?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I had to bluff once.
He's calling if he has anything but that.
Well, you're calling with anything because you're in your mind, they always call it anything. See, I can't beat top pair here, but man, I tell you, I don't got a pair here, but man, I tell you. He's polarized to the nuts or nothing. Oh, or top pair. Yeah. Okay, good. Good hand.
Bob's got plenty of bleeping chips. Right now he's killing it, up over 138 grand, and our other winning player tonight is the Cannon. She's up over 52,000.
Everyone else is down. Laliberte and Duhamel for about 31 grand each, and Mercier is stuck 38 dimes, while Eugene Kachalov is stuck in a free fall. He's now down about 90 grand.
All right, Carrie, the question on everyone's mind. Are you content with what you have, or you want to gamble it up tomorrow night for that passport?
I have no idea what I have. I came to play, and I will play
Look at that.
150 hands.
Bob's been wondering what you've had the whole time. He keeps looking at your stack. He can't figure it out.
I'm too stupid to figure it out.
But you're eating this table alive besides Carrie.
I guess so, yeah.
All right, guys, there's over $1 million on the table. Tune in tomorrow night to see what happens. I'm Amanda Leatherman saying goodbye for now. And remember, if you've got the cash and the guts, there's always a seat open at the big game. Good night.
That's all for this session. For Joe Stapleton, I'm Scott Huff. Next time on the big game, it's all come down to this. Loose cannon Carrie Burchell stands 1 double up away from making over 300 grand in profit and taking a stranglehold on the lead for the passport. And with just 16 hands left, she gets her chance. But will Carrie's top 2 be enough against billionaire Guy Laliberte?
Do you have ace king? No. Maybe.
It's a hand you will never forget. Join us for the memorable conclusion to the big game tomorrow night. The preceding program was sponsored by PokerStars.net.